Here are the nominees for Achievement in Music.
People are totally wrong who keep telling me that, oh, you're a multitasker. I'm not.
Awards and fashion shows are in full swing.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Gravitas. My name is Priyanka Sharma. Here's what's coming up on the show tonight. Mystery, romance, a sinister plot. Our cover story tonight has it all. Because guess what? In 2023, a foreign minister has gone missing. He has been wiped off the internet, from public life, from diplomatic meetings, and pretty soon he will be wiped out from our memories. Qin Gang, the former foreign minister of China, has vanished. Where is he? We don't know. What happened to him? China doesn't want us to know. How can such a prominent public figure go missing? One who sat down at the power table with some of the biggest leaders in the world. One who shook hands with the most powerful faces in the world. One who was a protege of none other than the all-powerful Xi Jinping. How did he just drop off the face of the earth? So tonight on Gravitas, I ask, why is there so much mystery? Why is China trying to scrub Qin's digital footprint? What does China not want us to know? Is there a sinister plot underway? That is our cover story tonight. Also on the show, why is every other person in India falling sick from the swine flu to the eye flu? There are multiple viruses being reported. We'll talk to a doctor and get you some advice on how to battle this flu season. Did you see what happened to Byju? The famous founder broke down in tears. What happened to India's biggest edtech startup? Tonight, I'll tell you what newer startups can learn from Byju. I'll also bring you some terrifying scenes from around the world. They'll jolt you out of ignorance, hopefully. Oceans are heating up. The earth is breathing fire. It's high time we salvage what we can. What happened to Qin Gang? You know, China's former foreign minister who was very much in office until yesterday. He was deposed. There was no explanation given. Qin Gang has also not been seen for a while. In fact, he has not been seen in public life since the 25th of June. And today is the 26th of July. The man who was China's foreign minister until yesterday has been missing for a month. And no one, I repeat, no one seems to have an answer. And you know what? After deposing him, China is now trying to erase Qin. Delete his digital footprint, scrub the internet, remove Qin's name from official records as if the man never existed. Look at this. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs has removed pages which mention Qin in the first place. This page is supposed to have information on the foreign minister, and currently it says, and I quote, updating. This page is supposed to have speeches of the former foreign minister, but this page too is supposedly updating. What happened to all of Qin's speeches? Try this out right now. Go to the homepage and search for Qin Gang. And this is what you get. Nothing. China has managed to erase Qin. Every information regarding him is missing, and so is he. Is he dead? Did something happen to him? Where is Qin? China was asked this question. Here's what the spokesperson said. The website has been quote-unquote updated in accordance with the relevant regulations. Does the regulation call for removing records from the Qin time as a foreign minister? Or deleting information about all the events he attended, all the speeches he delivered? It certainly does not. Yesterday, China also replaced the governor of the People's Bank of China. Qin Gang was replaced by Pan Gongsheng. But guess what? Yi has not been scrubbed off the PBOC website. We checked. And the last time we checked, look what we found. Press releases on Yi meetings with Japanese diplomats attending events. They're all very much still there on the website. So why, I ask, was an exception made for Qin's erasure from the internet? Qin was in office for 6 months, and the Chinese Foreign Ministry website wants us to believe that those 6 months never happened, that they are a figment of your imagination. So what exactly is happening here? The Chinese media isn't risking asking these questions. It is happy breaking the news of a new foreign minister instead, with a poker face.
本台消息，国家主席习近平7月25日
President Xi Jinping signed Presidential Order No. 8 on July 25. Presidential Order No. 8 says that in accordance with the decision of the 4th meeting of the Standing Committee of the 14th National People's Congress of People's Republic of China on July 25, 2023, first, Qin Gang has been removed from his concurrent post as Foreign Minister, and Wang Yi has been appointed as Foreign Minister.
为中国人民银行行长。
No word on why Qin was removed. No word on how the sequence of events playing out is very, very unusual. China watchers will agree with me when I say that this is not how the country operates. It does not simply change foreign ministers just like that, let alone replace a foreign minister with a man he not too long ago replaced. Now that's unless something seriously sinister has unfolded behind the Iron Curtain. But what's that? Explanation number 1, health. 5 days ago, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson was asked whether he could share any information on his missing boss. And here's what he said.
What is the current situation with Foreign Minister Qin Gang? Why is the minister not attending the BRICS meeting on security affairs next week? And when will he return to public duties? Thank you.
I have no information to provide in regards to your question.
Do you believe that? I have no information with regards to your question. If your boss went missing for a month, wouldn't you try to find out what happened? Wang Yi has been filling in for Qin at high-profile events, including ASEAN and BRICS engagements. When the news of Qin's disappearance got out, the Foreign Ministry tried to brush the reports under the carpet. It said it had not read the reports of Qin's disappearance, so it couldn't comment on the matter. Couple of days later, as ASEAN engagements in Indonesia drew closer, the same spokesperson said that Wang Yi was filling in for Qin because the latter was unwell. Health reasons is what was cited, but there was no detail given.
State Councillor and Foreign Minister Qin Gang cannot attend this ASEAN ministerial meeting because of health reasons.
Clearly, this was a lie. Had she been ill, why would China need to scrub the Foreign Ministry's website? Why would it need to censor social media hashtags relating to Qin's removal from office? Why would a desperate China also censor hashtags about a TV show set around the time of Qin's dynasty? China isn't scared of its history. The CCP takes pride in Chinese history, in fact. And for the longest time, it seemed like Chinese President Xi Jinping took pride in his protege, Qin Gang. Qin was a career diplomat. He was young. He gave fiery speeches. And Xi Jinping trusted him enough to make him the Chinese ambassador to the United States. And then one of China's youngest foreign ministers. And now Xi is risking a hit to his own image with a leadership change. Why? What was the need? Did Qin fall off Xi's good books? Let me now offer explanation number 2, an alleged affair. There are reports suggesting the former foreign minister had an affair with a TV anchor, but is this the whole truth or the reason behind his disappearance? Somehow, just like the health excuse, this narrative too does not seem to have any legs. I'll tell you why. Would China go after one of its most recognizable officials over an affair? Remember, Qin was not just the foreign minister, he was also the state councillor. A position he still holds because last I checked, no replacement was announced for that position. An affair seems to be too simple and underwhelming a reason for deposing and erasing a foreign minister, don't you think? Well then, let's move on to explanation number 3, a purge. The last time someone so high profile was suddenly removed from public life was in early 2012. Hu Jintao was the Chinese president. And Wen Jiabao, the premier, both men were preparing to stand down courtesy fixed term limits and a mandatory retirement age. The CCP was preparing for a change of guard. And all eyes were on Xi Jinping, who was preparing to take his position on the very top of the Chinese Communist Party and become the next president of China. But there was another leader that the party couldn't take its eyes off. Bo Xilai. He was a rising star and was unstoppable. Bo had served the party in various capacities, and by 2012 the word was that Bo would be given a seat in the Politburo Standing Committee. Perhaps he would also be considered as a successor of Xi Jinping. One day Bo is a star, a member of the all-powerful Politburo, and the next day he is the face of one of China's biggest political scandals. Bo Xilai is accused of corruption and his wife of murder. Bo is disgraced, booted out of the Politburo, given a public trial and put behind bars. Bo's downfall paved the way for Xi Jinping's rise. Bo was touted to replace Xi as the next CCP leader. That's the story. Now Xi is a leader for life. And ever since coming to power, Xi has removed from public life everyone and anyone who poses even an iota of threat to his office. For instance, Alibaba founder Jack Ma, or the 100,000 leaders who were taken out in the last decade. China likes to spin stories of purge. The media says that Xi has no tolerance for corruption. So was Qin Gang too corrupt? Was he also a victim of Xi's purge? Highly unlikely. You see, Qin Gang was Xi's protege. So what happened to him? Probably something extremely sinister, extremely personal, something that embarrassed Xi Jinping so much that Qin was immediately removed from public eye, and within a month he was removed from office. Overnight, Qin's digital footprint was scrubbed off official pages. Probably he has already been jailed or put under house arrest or worse. That's the only explanation that we have here. The full story, unfortunately, is something we may never know. Shifting focus now to India, it's officially in the grip of monsoon. Several parts of the country are witnessing incessant rain, waterlogging and minor floods. And as the rain pours down on us, so are cases of an old predicament, the seasonal flu. There has been a sudden outbreak of the flu across the country. Maharashtra is one of the worst hit. Between July 1st to July 16th, it witnessed a total of 61 cases of swine flu. Data analysis shows that out of the 61 cases, 52 cases were in Mumbai alone. According to this calculation, at least 3 people are getting infected every day. Now, for the unversed, swine flu is basically the H1N1 flu. It is a type of an influenza virus. It is a respiratory infection caused by an influenza strain that started in pigs. Each year, during the monsoon months, cases of this virus usually spike. It usually infects middle-aged and elderly people who have underlying health concerns like diabetes, heart disease, and chronic kidney disease. Is this the only flu spreading in India at the moment? Unfortunately, no. The other one is the eye flu, or what is popularly called conjunctivitis. According to reports, a spurt of conjunctivitis cases is being reported in North India, primarily in the capital New Delhi, along with Agra. These cities are reporting cases of pink and red eyes in higher numbers than the rest of the country. If we speak of the capital, doctors are reporting more than 100 cases every day. Some doctors are even calling this viral infection a new COVID-like epidemic. They say most of the patients coming to them have red swollen eyes, severe pain. Take a look at schools. Teachers are sending kids back in droves. Children are bringing home different viruses and infections, and adults are fighting the onslaught. Likewise, Agra too is reporting a spurt in cases of the eye flu. Some local hospitals have reported receiving more than 100 patients daily. Most of them happen to be children. So taking note of this, the health department has directed schools to make students and their parents aware of the disease. Parents have further been asked to not send infected children to school. So now you know what's happening and why it's happening. Let's now get down to the causes, the signs, the symptoms, and of course the steps that we all need to take to prevent catching this flu. To start with, what are the causes of the eye flu? According to the CDC, the most common causes of conjunctivitis are viruses, bacteria, allergens, chemicals, contact lens wear, indoor and outdoor air pollution, chemical vapors, or fungi and parasites. Next question, what are the symptoms of the eye flu? To start with, a pink or red color in the eyes, swelling of the eye, increased stare production, a feeling like a foreign body stuck in the eye, or even an urge to rub the eye, itching, irritation or burning, and crusting of the eyelids or the lashes. These are just some of the common symptoms that you need to watch out for. Next question, how can eye flu be treated? Well, according to doctors, the most common remedies are antibiotic eye drops, eye ointments, topical decongestants and lubricants in order to help relieve some of the inflammation and dryness caused by conjunctivitis. You can also use cold compresses and artificial tears. And lastly, we have to talk about prevention. How do we prevent conjunctivitis and the flu? Well, first things first, maintain good hygiene. Avoid touching your eyes with unclean hands, and above all, do not ignore even the minor symptoms. But to discuss this and a lot more, I'm now being joined by Dr. Suhasini S., Associate Consultant, Department of Ophthalmology at MGM Healthcare. Doctor, thanks for joining us.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
As of now, Doctor, I'm sure you're seeing a great number of patients, kids especially, landing at your door with itchy eyes, colds, coughs. Now, does this happen every year, or is it particularly bad this year? And why is this happening?
Yes, so the infection patterns, that is the viral infections which cause eye conjunctivitis, like you said, happen almost every year. But of course, we are seeing a large number of cases happening this year. The sudden spike, I would say, is corresponding to schools opening up right now. And secondly, mixed with the environmental changes, that is, there is monsoons which have started, there's this damp and moist environment in which the virus actually multiplies and replicates faster, which has caused this spike of the number of cases that we are seeing. The second thing is, of course, schools were shut for the last 2-3 years because of the pandemic. So there wasn't as much of social interaction between kids. And of course, children are more susceptible because they don't practice as much hand hygiene as well as social distancing, which is again needed for spread of the virus. That is, the virus spreads by both direct and indirect contact. Direct contact is when one touches one's eye and then touches the other person.
Doctor, you mentioned children, and I have to ask this question because we've had a lot of queries, about kids picking up infections from school. These are, of course, the same kids whose immunity took a hit in months of lockdown. Are these symptoms predictable at this point? That's what parents want to know.
Predictable, yes. So when children or adults, for that matter, the most common presentation that we see is pink eye or red eye, as you suggested. The common colloquial term for conjunctivitis is pink eye. So anyone who has pink eye associated with either watering or a sticky yellowish discharge, invariably without delaying further, must seek their nearest eye specialist's opinion. And because there are various conditions which may present as red eye, conjunctivitis is one of the causes of red eye. So the diagnosis of a conjunctivitis can only be made by your healthcare specialist, that is your ophthalmologist, the nearest ophthalmologist possible. Please go see them, and they will diagnose the eye issue as conjunctivitis or not, and specific medications are provided.
So, Doctor, what can parents do? Should they weather the storm simply? What kind of precautions can they take, especially if they're not sending the kids to school?
Right. So first and foremost, identifying whether or not this is conjunctivitis. So that can be done by visiting your ophthalmologist, one. Second is, if in case it is conjunctivitis, there are different types of conjunctivitis. One is, like you've mentioned already, madrasai, very colloquially known again. This is a viral conjunctivitis caused by a specific virus, which is called adenovirus. So this in itself is a self-limiting infection, which is usually seen around the monsoon season when it starts to rain, but it's not profoundly wet and damp. So what happens is, in this condition, this is a self-limiting illness, like most of our flu-related illnesses, flu-like illnesses. So basic hygiene measures, that is avoidance of touching the eyes, hand washing frequently, application of cold compresses usually can weather the storm, if you may. But in some conditions, this causes the affliction of the cornea, which is the black portion of the eye, which is seen, when you look at somebody. When that gets involved is when it can cause issues like visual distortions or visual disturbances or drop in vision. They can have photosensitivity, that is, when they look at bright lights, they can have a lot of pain, watering. Most importantly, when this madrasai or viral infection is characterized by a painful node in front of the ear.
Right.
So that is a trade.
Doctor, these are very helpful. That's very helpful what you've mentioned, and on the show we'll advise all parents to keep a track of all these symptoms so that your child stays safe and healthy. Thanks for joining us on Gravitas tonight.
Welcome. Thank you. Good night.
Let's move on now. Last night I told you how the ground in Arizona was burning people. Today it's the ocean. You would turn to a water body to beat the heat, but those same water bodies are now breathing fire. In Florida's Manatee Bay, water temperatures soared to 38.5 degrees Celsius this week, possibly the highest ever. Records for ocean surface temperatures are not kept. Still, the highest temperature observed was 37.6 degrees Celsius in the Persian Gulf. The normal temperature range in Florida's waters is 23 to 31 degrees Celsius. On Monday, it was above 38. Calling it unprecedented would be an understatement. The water was warm as a hot tub. Our oceans are in peril. And don't take my words lightly. Do you know what's happening to this Atlantic Ocean currents? If not, it's about time that you do. An ocean's water is constantly circulated by currents. These currents are not random, but are current systems. They are carried in a large global conveyor belt of sorts. One crucial system of ocean currents is the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, or AMOC. It carries warm water from the tropics into the North Atlantic. Basically, the system keeps the heat in check and helps regulate global weather patterns. But guess what? Scientists say that it could collapse as early as 2025. That's just 2 years from now. All thanks to global warming. What would its collapse mean? Rapid climate change, sea level rise, more potent storms and hurricanes in the US, a shift in the monsoon in the tropics, and even an ice age in Europe. What is happening around the world? It is nature's revolt. Greece is on fire. 3 people have died. More than 20,000 have been evacuated. Life has come to a standstill. Take a look at these before and after satellite pictures of Greece. Look at all that smoke. Flames are swallowing up trees, cars, homes and hotels. Animals are left dead in the streets. Businesses have been destroyed. The beautiful Rhodes Island, which earlier bustled with tourists, is now getting charred mile by mile. Listen in to the people of Greece yourself.
I had people with asthma here. This man work a lot. Come, Petros, come. He went to the pharmacy to brought a spray for asthma. It's my cousin. He's one of the reasons that this building still exists. And we help the people. We had people with heart attack. We tried to bring oxygen here. It was before my uncle. We opened the kitchen to feed the people.
What's more, waterbombing planes are flying through dense smoke to control the blaze. One of them even crashed and burst into flames itself, becoming the first casualty of these wildfires. It's not just Greece. Wildfires are raging in at least 10 other countries across the Mediterranean. Croatia, Italy and Portugal are burning like a blowtorch. At least 34 people have been killed in Algeria. 15 provinces have been charred. 1,500 people have been evacuated from their homes. Same is the case with Tunisia. What's happening in France, Montenegro, Spain's island of Gran Canaria and Turkey? The fire just doesn't want to stop. What is it if not our own doing? Our mindless carbon emissions have set the perfect conditions for raging wildfires. And why just fires? It's the water as well. I already told you about the oceans. Now take a look closer to home. In the city of Greater Noida, near Delhi NCR, the overflowing Hindon River has inundated several areas. But most striking are these visuals. Take a look. 300 vehicles stand submerged in water. So I ask you tonight, what is this if not nature revolting? Reclaiming its space. You know, our planet always knows how to heal itself. I hope tonight that gets you thinking. Let's now shift our focus to the world's former most valuable edtech startup, Byju. The startup which lived the dream and is now in the dumps. Who's to blame? Who's at fault? The CEO, Byju Ravindran, is being blamed for mismanaging the firm's growth. The once high-flying startup has failed to file its financial accounts on time. Investors have accused Byju of hiding $500 million. And many of its teaching centers are now running empty. Where did Byju go wrong? What can other Indian startups learn from this story? Take a look.
This is Byju Ravindran, founder and chief executive of Byju. Reports say the former billionaire is downing cups of black coffee and attending non-stop calls from troubled investors. This shouldn't come as a surprise for a man who is the captain of a sinking ship. We're talking about the education tech startup Byju. The company has been in crisis mode for several months, losing capital, angry investors, empty classrooms, and facing lawsuits. This is the situation of the startup in a nutshell. In April, the company's Bengaluru office was raided for alleged foreign exchange violations. Several US-based investors say that Byju is hiding $500 million. Some investors are even giving up their board seats. Why? It's due to poor governance and disregard for directors' advice. One of the crucial investors, Prosus, a global investment group, said, and I quote here, Byju grew considerably since our first investment in 2018, but over time its reporting and governance structures did not evolve sufficiently for a company of that scale. The investors who quit Byju's board include Peak XV, a venture capital firm, Prosus, a global investment group, and the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, Mark Zuckerberg's philanthropic organization. So where did Byju's go wrong? Experts say the missteps were due to the naive nature of the inexperienced founder. Critics say that Ravindran knew how to scale the business but forgot to plan for a bust. Byju Ravindran was originally a teacher. He grew his teaching business by increasing the number of students. Ravindran even booked stadiums to teach thousands of pupils. In 2015, he digitized his business and launched a self-learning app. As more investors flowed in, Ravindran acquired several educational companies in India and abroad. The pandemic pushed students online, which brought the company enormous profits. Everything was hunky-dory until 2022. As schools began to open, problems began piling up. The demand for online tutoring fell. Investors and employees thought the CEO would conserve cash and target profitability, but Ravindran chased more equity. He announced an $800 million round of fresh investments for the company. There was no verification of whether investors even had that much money, and the funds never came through. Reports say Ravindran has avoided consulting investment bankers on such deals, and that resulted in him failing to get the required equity. Financial accounts, which were supposed to be submitted in March 2021, were given 18 months late and showed a loss of over $540 million. US lenders have now accused Byju of hiding $500 million. They say it's because the firm hasn't provided regular financial updates. Ravindran has now lost his billionaire status. The company's valuation has dropped from $22 billion to nearly $5 billion. This is a simple tale of greed overpowering practicality. Where Ravindran was expected to conserve cash, he went out to get more of it without studying the market. The man did not consult his own investment professionals and disregarded advice from his own board of directors. Byju is an example of all that can go wrong from multiple angles. Bureau Report, WION The World is one.
Now, amid these times of turbulence for the startup, Byju seems to be holding strong and being optimistic about the future. We also talked to officials from Byju to get their take on the situation. Officials said that the company is set to do a lot better. They have pushed back on the heavy criticism that the startup is facing. The optimistic view is similar to what Ravindran once said. The company has not come this far to only come this far. The company has also claimed that it is not involved in any kind of wrongdoing and that it is facing troubles to gain funds at this point of time. So will Byju's optimism pay off in the near future? Will the startup gain back its investors' trust? We will be tracking this story and hope that this doesn't become a cautionary tale for newer startups. Let's move on now. Our next story is about a topic which has split much of the world. It's about the burning of the Quran. A story that has left many European countries torn between their commitment to free speech and the need to uphold and respect religious minorities. The trigger for this debate has been recent instances of Quran burning in the West in particular. The latest instance is from Denmark. On Monday, 2 protesters set fire to a copy of the Quran in front of the Iraqi embassy in Denmark's capital, Copenhagen. They first stomped on the Quran and then set it alight in a tinfoil tray next to the Iraqi flag lying on the ground. The duo was from a group that calls itself Danish Patriots. This is a far-right, ultra-nationalist group. It held a similar demonstration last week and live-streamed the events on social media. On Tuesday, there were 2 more incidents. A small group of anti-Islam activists set fire to the Quran. And this was in front of the Egyptian and the Turkish embassy in Copenhagen. This demonstration was also organized by the same group, Danish Patriots. So that's 2 incidents in less than 48 hours. Naturally, they've sparked widespread condemnation to the Islamic world. Iraq's foreign ministry called on Denmark to quote-unquote quickly reconsider so-called freedom of expression and the right to demonstrate. It also said that Danish staff at the embassy in Baghdad had left the country after protests against such severe incidents. The Turkish foreign ministry has also responded. It has condemned the continuing attacks on the Quran, adding that Danish authorities allowing these actions means that they do not see the severity of the results they can have. Turkey has also called on Denmark to take necessary measures to prevent what they call hate crimes against Islam. Meanwhile, the Egyptian Foreign Ministry summoned Sweden's charge d'affaires to condemn the incident. Bahrain also condemned an unnamed Swedish diplomat based in Abu Dhabi in response to the Quran burnings. This is because Sweden does not have an embassy in Bahrain. Now here's the thing, while burning any religious text is deeply offensive, it is essential to remember that freedom of expression is a fundamental human right enshrined in international law and is vital to any functioning democracy. This right includes the freedom to express unpopular, offensive, or even hateful ideas, as long as this expression does not incite violence or hatred against specific individuals or groups. That's it. Can the burning of holy texts be accepted under the guise of freedom of expression? This is where things get a bit complicated. You see, the Quran, the Gita, or the Bible are not just books for their believers. They are sacred texts that hold spiritual and religious significance. They're symbols of faith. Burning them or insulting them in any way is seen as a direct attack on the very essence of that faith, and rightfully so. Not to mention the repercussions that follow. Usually such acts are accompanied by hateful comments or actions against members of that particular community, maybe even violence. 2 days back, we discussed how a scene in a Hollywood movie had enraged the sentiments of many Hindus in India. The scene in question depicts lead actor engaging in sexual activity with actress Florence Pugh holding a copy of the Bhagavad Gita in her hands. Many considered this to be a brazen insult of the Holy Scripture and of the Hindu faith. The two incidents may be poles apart, but the point I'm trying to make is quite simple. Are Western nations insensitive towards the sentiments of other religions? Do they have little to no regard for the belief and faith of religions that they don't consider their own? Do they not think or bother to think, for that matter, about the repercussions that such decisions or protests might have? I ask these questions because such incidents are now routinely taking place in Western countries. Such a state of affairs is in no one's interest, no one. Neither the religion that is being humiliated nor the country that is allowing such acts to happen on its soil. Shifting our focus to the United Kingdom, the pandemic starved many university students of college experiences. Students stayed indoors at homes and studied through video meetings or pre-recorded videos. But British universities made a profit, a huge profit, by charging the same tuition fee and disregarding the services that students could not access, such as visiting libraries, laboratories, and other facilities. Nearly 120,000 students are now taking legal action against these universities. So will universities cough up the unfair tuition fees? How far are the students willing to go? Let's get into the details now. A student dreams of the perfect college life where they will meet friends, indulge in new experiences, see the university campus. It is once in a lifetime experience for any new student. But the pandemic changed all that. It made every university shift to an online mode. And this is where universities in the United Kingdom found a loophole, a convenient loophole. Instead of offering a discount for the lack of services provided, universities charged the same exorbitant tuition fee, as if nothing had changed. They saw the chance of making massive profits, and they took it. You see, online courses are much cheaper than conducting ordinary classroom lectures. The college does not have to spend time on providing basic amenities to students. They don't have to maintain laboratories and classrooms. They are not being used. Authorities end up saving a ton on electricity costs and other resources, of course. Now, nearly 120,000 graduates have called out universities. A wave of group litigation orders have come through to sue universities. Which universities? The University College London, the University of Liverpool. A US litigation funding firm, TRPG Capital, has also invested more than $16 million to finance these litigation orders. What are the universities saying? Universities like UCL say that their contract with the students specified that they wouldn't be liable in such cases. They were hedging their risks even back then. The contract says that they can't be blamed for losses due to, and I quote, government restrictions and concerns with regard to the transmission of serious illness. The claimant said that the contract does not make the university's action valid. They pointed out that there is a clear imbalance in rights between students and universities. And we have to agree. In the case of the University College London, experts say that they enjoyed major profits during pandemic. The university increased its tuition fee by 41% between the years 2018 and 2021. It doubled its profits to more than $165 million in 2020 and 2021. Legal experts have warned that even if the students win the case, they would struggle to actually show the size of any loss. This means that although lawyers are saying that online lectures are cheaper to deliver than in person, they are struggling to quantify the amount of monetary loss. The COVID refund problem is not only affecting British nationals, the UK is home to a massive number of foreign students. Reports say that more than 127,000 Indian nationals study in the UK, bringing them to the top of the list. China also comes in the top 5 with more than 116,000 students in the United Kingdom. Students say that the tuition fees is crippling, but it feels worse when it's not worth it. Many will face student loan repayments being docked from their paychecks for years. Will universities be held accountable for what they've done? We'll keep a watch as the story unfolds. Let's move on now. Do you know this woman? If you're watching me from India, then you may have already seen her splashed across all Indian news channels. She is Seema Haider, the Pakistani woman who fell in love with an Indian man through an online game, who illegally crossed the border and is now in India. She is a married woman, a mother of 4, wife of Ghulam Haider, who lives in Saudi Arabia. Who did she fall in love with? This man, Sachin Meena. He lives in Greater Noida. Seema not only left her husband for Sachin, she also left her country. She doesn't want to return to Pakistan, but that's not how the law works. On July 4th, she was arrested for trespassing into India. Sachin was also put behind bars for sheltering an illegal immigrant. There was a lot of questioning, allegations, speculation. Uttar Pradesh's anti-terrorist squad is now investigating if Seema is a spy. Reports say she is requesting Indian citizenship. And then we have this woman. Her name is Anju. She lives in the Indian state of Rajasthan with her husband, Arvind, and 2 children. Anju told her husband that she was going to Jaipur for a few days, but in truth, just like Seema Haider, she also crossed the border. At least she was sensible enough to get a visa. Anju travelled all the way to Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province to meet her lover, Nasrullah. The two befriended each other on Facebook and apparently fell in love. Media reports say she has converted to Islam and married Nasrullah. Anju's family in India says she is dead to them. Why am I telling you all this? Chances are you've already seen the story, read about them. These 2 stories have piqued the attention of people across India and Pakistan. Why is that? Are extramarital affairs something unique, unheard of, a novelty? Not really. They have become quite common, on the contrary. According to a research conducted in 8 Indian cities, about 55% of married Indians have been unfaithful to their partner at least once. In fact, just like dating apps, there are other apps that let married people find matches, only with the goal of having an extramarital affair. The app in question is called Gliden. It arrived in India in 2017. It has 800,000 subscribers. That means that at least 800,000 Indians are looking to cheat on their spouses or partners. They're actively searching for love, just not with their husband or wife or partner on paper. Then why are we so hung up on Seema Haider and Anju? Why are we so invested in these torrid love affairs? Is it about the cross-border romance angle? Whenever there is an unusual love story, one that involves different sections of a society, it could be cross-border, interfaith, same-sex, different class, caste. There are certain cultural and societal norms that demand compliance. There is implicit bias and stereotypes, and there is the age-old cross-border conflict. Unfortunately, whenever such a love story comes up, people tend to get overly invested. The stories start to trend, and then follows a volley of misinformation. People's love, their love life, becomes soap operas. And everyone is there to catch up on the drama. They're sitting with a bag of popcorn. Some are even inspired by it. Didn't Anju cross the border at a time when Seema Haider's story was all over the news? Is there a larger conspiracy afoot? Could the 2 cases be connected? This is not me raking up controversy. These are creative liberties taken by everyone who is watching these two love stories unfold on TV. The idea of such relationships feeds into the dark element of the psyche. It is a 21st century, but certain lines still cannot be crossed. Certain love stories remain a taboo, and their forbidden nature makes them the talk of town. Maybe it's about time we move on. And speaking of twisted love stories, this one ended up in triple murder. It is the story of 25-year-old Nazibur Rahman Bora and 24-year-old Sanghamitra Ghosh. The duo lived in Assam's Golaghat district. The two became friends on Facebook in 2020 during the COVID-19 lockdown. Within months, friendship turned to love. Nazibur and Sanghamitra eloped to Kolkata. Sanghamitra's parents brought her back home, but she had already married Nazibur in a Kolkata court. Then in 2021, Sanghamitra's parents registered a police complaint against her. They accused their daughter of theft. She was soon arrested. She spent more than a month in judicial custody. After getting bail, she returned back to her parents' home. Then in January this year, Sanghamitra and Nazibur eloped again to Chennai this time. They lived there for 5 months, and then the couple then returned to Assam in August. Sanghamitra was pregnant. The two started living at Nazibur's home and had a son. In March, the love story again met a roadblock. Sanghamitra left Nazibur's home with her baby and went to live with her parents. She accused Nazibur of torturing her, even filed a police complaint. A case of attempted murder was registered and Nazibur was arrested. 28 days later, he was released on bail. Once out of jail, Nazibur wanted to meet his child, but Sanghamitra's family did not let him. In fact, Nazibur's brother registered a police complaint. He accused Sanghamitra and her family members of assaulting him. And after much back and forth, the tensions reached a breaking point. Nazibur murdered his wife, Sanghamitra, and her parents. He then fled with his 9-month-old baby and ultimately surrendered to the police. At the Ghosh residence, the bodies of Sanghamitra and her parents laid in pools of blood oozing out of machete wounds. The doomed love story came to a gruesome end. Now, before I end the show, I have a question for those of you looking for a job or a job change. How is the hunt going? You know, what's really frustrating? When you apply to jobs but never hear back from them. In your head, you're thinking you tick all the boxes, you have a resume that matches the job description. You are a perfect fit, but somehow the recruiter never calls you. And this becomes a trend. You never even get a chance to interview for the role. Why do you think that is the case? Is there a fault in your resume? Probably. Most of us pay a lot of attention to our CVs. And why not? The CV is our sales pitch. It is supposed to convince a recruiter that we deserve to be given a shot, that we should be considered a potential candidate. We do all we can to decorate our CVs, boast about the language we know, sometimes fib a little here and there too. Maybe you don't really have a black belt in karate, or maybe you never really volunteered at the blind school. But who cares, as long as you look multi-talented. We list out all our achievements, carefully pick out the fonts, the colors, check and double check the alignment. We take expert advice on whether or not to attach a picture. Also, the best format to link our portfolio. So, how can something so carefully crafted be faulty? Breaking news. You may have the picture-perfect CV, but it may not be the best pitch for the job that you've applied for. You know why? Because your CV is missing the key words. I'll let you into the secret right now. Experts suggest that your CV should have the keywords mentioned in a job description. Say, you're applying for a job in a newsroom. Your job description says you need to have top-level copy editing skills, headline writing skills. You need to be able to identify breaking news. So when you send in your CV for this particular job position, your CV needs to have the keywords, like copy editing, headline, breaking news. Will the recruiter not consider you if your CV is missing these keywords? Or say you've written something on the lines of skilled in reacting to a developing story instead of writing breaking news? Will the recruiter not give you a chance to interview? I'll let you in on another secret. A recruiter rarely screens your CV in round one. You see, most job ads receive hundreds and thousands of applications, and more often than not, recruiters need to fill the position as early as possible. Take a look. So what do? They read every CV that comes along the way, then shortlist candidates and call them for an interview? Well, it's too time consuming. So to speed up the process, recruiters around the world are increasingly deploying artificial intelligence. They are tasking AI with playing HR and filtering candidates. So it is actually AI that is screening your CV. It is AI that decides if you're fit for the job. It decides whether or not the recruiter should consider your CV for an interview call. And it is AI that does all the checking for keywords, job titles, and even references. So what do? Edit your CV every time you apply for a job to ensure that it has the right keywords matching the job description? Well, ideally, yes. But I understand that may be too tall a task. So people seem to have found a hack. And it is called white fonting. What's white fonting? It is nothing by fooling or cheating the AI. How do you do that? By copy-pasting keywords from the job description in your CV and then changing the font color to white. That way you ensure that the AI picks up the keywords, but when the CV is printed out and sent to the recruiter, he or she never gets to read those copy-pasted words. Or at least you hope she doesn't, because those words written in white remain invisible. Great hack, right? Except there is a big risk involved. What if the paper on which the CV is printed isn't white? I mean, chances are slim, given most offices use the same old white papers. But still, the risk remains. Here's another one. Companies say that their bots and recruiters are catching up to white fonting. So what should you do? Still take the risk? White font your CV the next time you apply for a job? Well, that's a question for you to answer. And with that, it's a wrap on Gravitas tonight, leaving you as always with Gravitas Images. Thanks for watching.
Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION